Welcome to the Norris Group Real Estate Podcast, a show committed to bringing you insights from thought leaders shaping the real estate industry. In each episode, we'll dive into conversations with industry experts and local insiders, all aimed at helping you thrive in an ever-changing real estate market, continuing the legacy that Bruce Norris created, sharing valuable knowledge, and empowering you on your real estate journey. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a newcomer, this is your go-to source for insider tips, market trends, and success strategies. Here's your host, Craig Evans. The Norris Group proudly presents I Survived Real Estate. Industry experts discuss evolving industry trends, real estate bubbles, inflation, and opportunities emerging for real estate professionals. We want to thank our platinum partners, UDirect IRA Services, San Diego Creative Investors Association, White Feather Investments, MVT Productions, Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club,
DBL Capital, Douglas Brook Homes,
and Realty 411 Magazine. See isurvivedrealestate.com for event details, information on all our generous sponsors, and to connect with our speakers.
I'm informed to let you know that every slide that we've got, plus there was probably 20 others that we didn't use tonight through the stuff that Bruce has, everybody will get access to that tonight. Just reach out to Joey the first of next week. We'll make sure that everybody gets that. So listen, I'm excited. I've met these two men here in the last probably 2 months. Very honored to get to know them and to meet them. The first one that I want to bring to the stage is Bill Allen. Bill is the owner and CEO of Seven Figure Flipping and Seven Figure Podcast. He is a retired Navy test pilot. Go military. Bill had an interesting story. Bill kind of accidentally fell into real estate investing because he got deployed, and now he's got to figure out, how do I become a landlord on the other side of the world when I've got a house in San Diego that I need to rent, right? So Bill's got a really interesting story, has grown his business to where they're doing 60 plus flips a year, and has started turning through his organization. Bill really understands systems and processes extremely well. Bill, it is a pleasure to have you on stage with us, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Yep, right here. The next gentleman I've had a pleasure to meet is Marck de Lautour. He owns SBD Housing. They're out of Kansas City. They are the premier #1 turnkey real estate investment firm in Kansas City. Got an interesting story, really. Now, as you start to listen to him, I know you'll probably get he and I, you'll think that we're probably brothers because, we sound so much alike. He's from New Zealand. Great guy, great story. How he got started. Again, one of those things is, how do I get moving? What do I do? Got into real estate. He's grown his business to where they're doing 150 to 200 transactions per year. Grown a great organization. Again, very systems oriented. You'll hear me talk about that a lot. As a guy that owns 5 businesses, I've got to have systems and procedures in place. So the guys that I'm bringing to stage understand that and get that, understand how to scale in this economy. Mark, pleasure to have you, my friend. Thank you, buddy. Have a seat with us. All right, as we start diving in here, I want to get right to some things. So my first question, really for everybody, what are some of the market efficiencies that you look for in real estate? And you guys can just jump in. I don't want to call on you one-on-one, but as you're looking at things, what are some of the inefficiencies that you look for when you're making investments?
Yeah, for a minute there, I thought you said market efficiencies. Obviously, as investors, we're always looking for market inefficiencies. And
that's that southern.
Sorry? Eat the mic. So, as a young entrepreneur, my foray into real estate started on the foreclosure courthouse steps. And so, I think the way that the code is still written to have banks, there's such an inefficient process of disposing of assets, having to go through this clunky have to have people actually live in person at the auction with cash on the day is an extremely inefficient way of selling property. So that is how I kind of first got into it. Obviously, auction.com and some of these other big players have reduced that inefficiency and made it a little bit more efficient. And so the hedge funds started coming in, obviously, it's right around 2012, 2013, started buying aggressively and obviously squeezed others out of the market. But it's an example of something that we would look for. The other one is just, I think, so that is kind of how I got into the game back in the day. In the market as it sits right now, we're really looking for people that have to sell, that have let their houses go unmaintained, and that's how we're getting our deal flow.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. Inefficiencies are where we make money. I think most business owners they're a little leery to change their strategy a lot. So we flipped, we've wholesaled, we've sold on owner finance, we've bought on owner finance. We've done a lot of different things, and I see all the time an investor just gets stuck, like I'm a fix and flipper, or I'm a wholesaler, or I buy apartments. And I really think the way that you need to think, three words that I think about every business strategy I do is hypothesize, test, pivot. And so if everybody, we were wholesaling a lot of deals for a while, and then we started seeing, I wholesaled a deal to somebody and I made $50K and he made $30K just by doing nothing and throwing it up on the MLS. And I saw that and I said, I could have made $80,000 just by buying it and throwing it on the MLS. So then we started doing that. And then that started to slow down. We called it wholetailing, right? You guys probably say the same phrases that we do. And then that started slowing down. We started having to build a flipping business because flippers stopped buying when the market started to tighten up. And so we had to squeeze every ounce, every dollar out of every deal that we did. So what I would challenge you is, what are other people not willing to do that you're willing to do? And that's business. That's how you make money. Inefficiency is how we make money. And figure out how you fit in the marketplace and what other people need. I started as a flipper, I became a wholesaler, I went back to a flipper. Now we sell a lot on owner financing, we're buying apartments. I'm just kind of bouncing around figuring out where to put my money and my time. I was just in Tampa. We're doing a show in Tampa right now. 2 hurricanes rolled through in Tampa. And I told my buddy, I said, look, man, you're here, you're local. There are neighborhoods where you cannot sell a house right now in Tampa, Florida. You need to figure out how to go lift those houses up. Put them on stilts, lift them up, buy every single one of them, let them get their insurance money, you buy them all, you lift them up, you'll make millions of dollars in the next 2 or 3 years. And that's the inefficiency in the market. Other people are not going to do that. They're going to fire sale their house. So you can build an entire business just on one local small area and the inefficiencies in there. You don't have to go nationwide. You can be right in your backyard and make a ton of money and help a lot of people.
As usual, we start with charts. So we created a thing called a deal wheel. And it basically looked at the set of charts that we were facing or where we were going to be heading. And it was very valuable because I could say, the affordability number in 2005 and 6 just bottomed out at 17. No one would build a relationship with an REO agent in 2006 because there were none, but I did. Because I told them, it's coming. You should call the lenders and be their number one guy. The number one guy that I said to that, I bought a fair amount of REOs from him, and he ended up with 1,000 listings because he was the first person that showed up to the lenders and said, this is all coming, I'm going to be your guy. So we used charts to buy. There were systems for when there was REOs, but if that's all you know, then what do you do for the 8 years there's no REOs? So there's a shift, and it showed a whole buying system. So when's the best time to buy land? It would be 2009 through 2012 when you can't build a thing. People have land they can't do anything with. So what did we do? We bought 93 building lots in California with streets in, street lights, sidewalks. What did we pay for each of those lots? $3,000. $3,000 to finish lot. We built 93 houses and made a little bit of money on those. But we look at it, the inefficiencies, we look at the opposite cycle. I want lots when you hate them, and I want to make relationships with people that are going to control inventory before anyone has it.
So each of you, to some degree, started talking about that you, at different times because of inefficiencies, you had to create pivots. How, a couple questions on that. I think first, how much should people be looking at how often they need to pivot? What are the levers, the metrics that they've got to look at within their own business of what they're doing and what their goal is? But the ability to pivot, how crucial is that? And what are some of the metrics that you three look at when you're pivoting through markets?
Yeah, I think the speed at which you adjust, number one, the one number you need in your business is your margin. When your margin starts getting squeezed in the company, if you know your numbers, your margin starts getting squeezed, you got to start asking why that's happening. It's people, it's process, it's the mechanism, the widget, it's something, it's the strategy. And so right then, you got to take a step back and say, and you guys fall in love with your businesses a little too fast. I know I do. So you got to pull yourself back and pull yourself out of that and look down on it and get yourself out. It's probably not you. It's not all the people in there. It's something is changing. And you know, when Bruce was just talking, one thing, I was introduced to Bruce way too late in my investing journey. I wish I knew him way earlier. I'd be a lot richer and a lot smarter. And what I noticed about him, I study people, I study these strategies, so there's principles, there's strategies, and there are tactics. Okay? The principles never change. They're foundational. They never change. The strategies are going to change, and that's kind of what we're talking about right now, shifting strategies. And then tactics are going to come and go. What I love about Bruce and what I've studied with him is he is willing to be right and wait. And so when him and I were talking over the past few years, what I noticed is he started like paying people off. Like he was right before anyone else would listen to him. And so he knew the crash was coming, he just didn't know when. And so he started pulling back when everybody else was stepping on the gas. And that's the challenging piece. You know the storm is coming, you just don't know when, and you're willing to start adjusting the strategy a little earlier on. And so that's been really challenging for me, but when I study really smart people, that's what they do. So it's been incredible to watch.
So I was talking with Craig last night and gave him the analogy of our business that I kind of find myself now sitting up in the crow's nest. You know, if your business is your operations is the ballast of the boat, and everyone's trying to row in the same direction, and your COO is kind of running the company and trying to get everyone in the right direction. You know, really our role as CEO of a company or a business owner, as you guys are all in the room, is really to kind of forecast. And that's why the value of the Norris Group and prognosticators in the industry that you need to listen to is so valuable, because the pivot needs to happen before it's too late. If you're looking at your P&L for the pivot, you're probably waited too long. Margins is a good one. But there's that, they say it's easier to do than to think. I think thinking time is something that I've tried to allocate on my calendar every week now. So Thursdays are a day just solely for thinking and looking out and looking at data and charts to try and see what's coming down the pipeline, because oftentimes if you do wait too late, mate, it's not good.
I'll just mention what you just said is very interesting. Getting out too late is very painful. Getting in too early is as far as, let's say you're done with a downside, you can be patient then and not get hurt. You know, there's a lot of people that don't mind waiting until the evidence is pretty certain you're going to be on the upswing. You haven't missed much of the upswing if you got in year 1 or year 3. But you can get really hurt if you don't get out in time. And that's the hardest thing, because you're emotionally patting yourself on the back constantly in 2006. I'm so brilliant. Oh my gosh. And then literally that property, those properties went down in California 3 or 4% a month for a year. We were wholesale buying, and when we were calibrating what we would pay, we were subtracting 24% from the retail price, thinking we were going to exit this in 6 months. We had to start with a retail number that was going to be 24% less, and then buy it at a discount. But if you didn't get out in that cycle, yeah, you got hurt really bad. What was really crazy too is the lenders were listing properties with the REO agents and not listening to them. So these big REO agents that had it, they'd have, they'd foreclose on something for 380 grand and list it for 359. And then they take it away from that agent 60 days later and give it to another friend that I knew, Steve. So Steve would get his listings and Bob would get those listings. They would just keep swapping like some magic was going to happen. And by the time they went through all that cycle, they ended up getting less than 100 for all of it.
2022 was a pretty major time frame for that. You know, interest rates go from the Fed funds rate 0.33 in April up to 5.33 in August. It was very hard, as an example, to pivot. Like we had projected that investor, you know, we're selling turnkey assets to investors, but suddenly we look up on October 1st and, you know, we had 147 assets in rehab at the time, looking to, you know, sell to our investors that were now saying, let's just wait and see what these interest rates do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are screaming for product. You know, what do we do? So my pivot very quickly was to stop buying. Sometimes you got to, you know, quit, you know, digging when you're in a hole. And so we quit buying and aggressively sold down for losses if need be. But I didn't know what 2023 was going to bring. And so in October of 2022, we had 147 assets. We made up shirts that said chasing 90 because my whole team was on a mission to quickly pivot and get out of this disaster. It was a balance sheet exercise, not a P&L exercise. And so we had to tell everyone in the business we were chasing 90. And when you measure what matters, so every morning on our daily huddle, everyone would report that number, 147, 145, 143, 143, 143. Why are we still at 143? Let's go, let's get down. Everyone was trying to chase 90. The team got down to 77 by 12/31 of that year, and we sold out all of our inventory and got cash rich. Negative net earnings, but cash rich, so we could take advantage of what was coming through the pipeline, because a lot of operators did not do that, and then they had to sell in 2023 for massive losses.
So, you know, Bruce, I've heard you over the years since I've met you, you and I've talked, and I don't know how many times you've talked about this to me, of you would rather know when to do something than how to do it.
Absolutely.
Let's face it, since 2020, I mean, let's look at all, we've had COVID, we've had supply chain issues, we've had labor issues, we've had interest rate changes, we've had hurricanes, we've had fires, and anything and everything you can think of, we have experienced it in the last 4 years. With these kind of situations that can create and have created market swings, what do you guys look for? And really, I should say, let me change that. From now through the end of 25, for the next year, are you guys looking from a pivoting standpoint and knowing what and when to do? Are you looking to be pretty bullish and really drive hard? Are you sitting back and just riding right now and say, I want to ride a little bit, I want to be a little bearish and just work through this market and just hold steady? What are you looking at in this market now?
Yeah, with what Mark said, we run a community of hundreds of house flippers and wholesalers around the country. So I get to have front row seats to their business. And I saw a lot of people get burned really bad a couple years ago. It's like the music's just stopped. And the inefficiency in that market was their operational effectiveness. Like the way they were operating, they were soft and lazy. And the time on market was it was taking them out. The prices were going up, it was fine. Extra 3 or 4 months, no big deal. We went over budget 10 grand, no problem. And when the music stopped, they got stuck. And everything just kind of fell out. And, you know, different markets, it's very hyper-local. But for us specifically, it's about operational efficiency now. If you're going to be flipping, we're getting in and out as fast as possible. Make as much money as we can. We're analyzing it in every exit strategy possible. How long are we going to stay in? What's the risk? What's the downside? How much margin do we have? And saying no to bad deals. People said yes to bad deals for many, many years, and they made money. And you just get lulled into this, everything's going to be fine. And so we're all looking now at a strategy of everything might not be fine. And if it's not fine, we can get real estate, if you're in there, if it's not dropping by 10% a month. So if I can get in and I can get out, I can offload this inventory or have a backup plan, then we'll say yes. If we don't know, then we'll, just like Bruce said, we'll increase the margin, we'll make a lower offer, and we'll stick to our numbers. It's very simple. I don't fall in love with the houses anymore. It's really just math. And then I'll just wait for Bruce to tell me what's happening next, and then we'll keep going.
I would echo that. is that the sellers now, like, you've got to get to the no quicker. We're coaching all of our acquisitions agents. I don't know what happened. Mike, okay. Turn me off. It's a Kiwi thing. So we encourage all of our acquisitions managers to get to be willing to say no. Anytime you go through such a massive market shift of interest rates specifically in 2023, it was very difficult for sellers' expectations to marry up with our very professional buyers' offers. So we were giving them a professional, reasonable offer, but it was such a massive gap between where their sellers' expectations were, and so we had to just say no more often and be willing to take fewer deals. Slowly, and it took about 6 months, where sellers' expectations finally caught up and we've started buying aggressively. The other thing, so that was one point. The other point on this topic was cash conversion cycle. Never more important to understand that the cash conversion cycle when you're flipping houses is something you should be monitoring all the time. So we used to be all flips, all turnkey. And I was introduced as a turnkey provider. We still do some of that on the new construction side. But our existing home sale inventory now, we're actually wholetailing, so that we have an average days on market of 15 or days held of 15 or 16 for about 50 or 60% of our inventory, and we'll only do about 40% of our inventory as full fix and flips. And we're obviously picking the cherries. And when you sometimes get a bad deal, just get rid of it, you move on, you get on to the next one. But really monitoring the cash conversion cycle. We didn't have a wholesale arm of our division, and that was one of our pivots to get through this time period, was making sure that we had a wholesale and wholesale division so that we could cycle our cash quicker.
Can I have one more thing? Just a little quick military reference for you guys. There were wartime generals and peacetime generals when I was in the military for 20 years. And I look at that as a CEO, like a wartime CEO and a peacetime CEO. And so for probably the last, 7 or 8 years, up until about a year and a half ago, there's a lot of peacetime CEOs just delegating a lot of things down to their people and not looking at the numbers and being really on top of the P&L and where the business is going. Hiring COOs, working 2 hours a week, that kind of stuff. And I really feel like I've become more of a wartime CEO now, where I'm actually pulling up some of the decisions that have to be made that were made by my people before that are now being made by me, because it's so important for the business. And the hardest part was actually pulling those decisions back up. It was a conversation that had to happen with the team to know that I still trust you, but these are now decisions that I have to make, because we're spending my money when we run payroll and we're not making money. Like, that comes out of my bank account. So hopefully that helps somebody in here, this kind of wartime, peacetime CEO, and understanding that there are times where you have to pull up the risk decisions and risk mitigation back to you as the general of the business. I prefer admiral as a Navy guy, but.
We'd also like to thank our gold sponsors: Inland Valley Association of Realtors, Keystone CPA, NorCal RIA, NSD REI, Pasadena Phoebe, Property Radar, The Collective Genius,
Thompson Group, Aloya Roland, Coldwell Banker Town and Country.
See iSurvivedRealEstate.com for event details. For more information on hard money loans, trust deed investing, and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For more information on passive investing through the DBL Capital Real Estate Investment Fund, please visit dblcapital.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under the California DRE license 01219911, Florida Mortgage Lender license 1577, and NMLS license 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the hard money tab.